Here we are again. It's the mAng and Neads Show. It is Sonic Garden Radio Live. How do you do? Friday, April 17th.
Welcome to another episode. Opening song, Uncle Luku and the Guys, True Eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the mAng and Neads Show. At the front desk, Josh Uwa, Sonic Gardens Radio. Here we are, man.
Welcome.
Got a close-up of you today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man.
How do I look?
You look fresh. Yeah, look good.
Look good?
Yeah.
All right.
Woo!
Happy day, everyone.
Day 33 of our Central New York quarantine. And me and Uwa bringing it to you daily in the afternoon. Yeah, we're looking to get 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel.
Yes, we are. We're like Lois and Clark.
We have
Lewis. We're searching
we're like
for
Clark
1,000.
Kent and Lois.
Yeah.
You can be Lois.
I'll be Lois.
So
transgender.
Yes. Frozen.
What happened?
I don't know. I just
What froze?
I don't know. My thought.
All
process.
right. I thought.
So what was I gonna say? Yeah, day 33. We've been keeping this thing going. This is our 33 days straight.
What's the name of the song we're listening to?
This one's called True Eyes.
Ooh.
Oh, this is like the happy. This is the happy Troy song.
It is. This one's happy.
Yeah, he's not bitching about anything.
Really? He's looking into somebody's eyes.
Maybe a slight bit of sarcasm.
Oh.
But, yeah.
Oh. Huh.
Nice. Yeah, man. So day 33. Might as well jump in and get you guys some updates. Start this show off. You know, anybody that is here for the coronavirus updates, it's kind of like just become this numb old news, you know, sadness, man.
Propaganda.
And yeah, it's out of control. But yeah, like you said, it's crazy. Like the same emboldening is coming now on this, and it's like, I just don't know, man. You know, people again saying we need to get out there. Like now they're like putting their foot down. It's not just their opinion. It is what needs to happen, which was basically exactly what that dude was saying. You know, and I played that clip yesterday, the guy saying, you know, we gotta, you know, just put everybody back to work. It's not worth it, and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, what I want to know.
What do you want to know?
I don't have kids. You have kids.
Yeah. Yeah, like talking about putting people back into schools first.
Are these fucking people like? Are you like? You want to put your kids back to school with the chance that they could get sick?
No, absolutely not.
Right?
I think
exactly. Like, why would you? I mean, why in the world would these people? I keep seeing it all over. Like, they're pissed because school might not start back up again. I don't give two fucks. I would not put my kid, if I had one, endanger them. You know
Well,
what I
then-
mean? They can figure out the schooling aspect, the kid, right? You know what I mean? We can figure it out for them. But if you put your kid in that situation and they get sick and they don't bounce back from it, now that's
no, that was what that guy was saying, that 2%. Like, what is it, 2%? Or and he basically was like, let's get out there and do it. Then it's that whole
the Fox guy
yeah,
that you played yesterday.
yes.
All right, I don't.
He was saying 2%. Yeah.
I just don't think that it would be like, I don't know how you could even, if you're so eager to do that and you put your kid back in school and they get sick and God forbid they die, you know what I mean? You're just gonna wipe that off as, oh well, like I was wrong. It's real.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like, what kind of fucking, I don't, man. You don't need to get shit rolling that quick.
Right.
But yeah. There we have it.
There we have it. I'm getting shit. I was getting some text.
Getting shit. Getting the shit started.
Getting it. Yeah. So that's what I was trying to pull up here.
Yeah, well,
Let's see if I got it. Oh,
well,
yes.
it's not a good time to be in a nursing home.
No. Yeah, that's what I'm.
6,900 people have died in nursing homes.
You see, that's the scary part about this, is that
And someone brings that in usually, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people, a lot of them old folks aren't leaving the nursing home, going out and getting it and bringing it back to their buddies.
No, it's somebody coming in.
Yeah.
And visiting.
Either visiting or taking care of them.
And that
works there.
Right. There you go.
So,
all right.
We're getting after it right off the get-go today. mAng and
Yes,
Neads
sir.
Show. I'm loud. I'm so loud I can hear like my voice through, not even through my headphones, like like the room.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's how loud I think. That's
You're
what
a
it
loud
feels
guy.
like. I'm being loud.
Hey,
yeah.
we have a call-in number, 607-373-954, or I'm sorry.
That's his home number,
that's,
folks.
my number. 607-373-HEAT.
For all the
HEAT. 607-373-HEAT 4328. Call that number if you want to give an update on what you're doing. We'd love to hear from you. mAng and Neads Show. So right now I got pulled up the world cases.
Really?
Yeah, man. World total is 2.25 million. There's been 153,138 deaths, and 568,356 people have recovered. So once again, you're looking at that one in shit, man. That's like a 1 in 4. Once again, a 1 in 4 chance. 1 in 4 deaths, yeah. So what's that? What did they give that for a number?
Huh.
That's 21%. Yeah, still. So I guess 1 in 5, closer to 1 in 5.
1 in 5.
1 in 5 of the closed cases are people have died.
So think about it.
So people that are still saying the numbers and what they think they know they're going to be, well, if that was the case, then there wouldn't be so many different cases per million per country. And then when you even dive into the actual country like USA, and you see that your chances, like basically, if you're in New York, you are one of the highest chances of dying from this at 873 per million. And our number again has doubled. So we went.
New York had 1,000
from-
deaths already today.
Yeah,
Just dying down there. Well, here.
that's
anywhere.
just New York, and there's
Yeah.
22, which means we're still at our. And again, it seems to me like what we've said for the last few days, that this is going to correlate with the
Peckerwoods that want to open
with those with the highest numbers, or not even the highest numbers. So that's why I'm saying that the death toll is not reached its
peak.
its record. The
Right.
death toll has definitely not reached its peak. Maybe, and even the cases. Where are we at with that?
Cases? And where? In
Yeah,
the
because it's
US
like
or New
everybody's
York?
like talking about slowing down, and it just seems like so yesterday ended at almost 30,000, same plateau that it's been at. Where
Right.
you look at that daily new cases, and we're hanging around that 30,000 mark, give or take. And if you look at like a day where there were the highest day, which was 34,196 cases, right? But then the next day there were only 25,000, and then it was bounced back up to 31. These are all just the way the numbers come in.
Right.
So in all reality, that number is like, it's kind of the peak, but we still don't know if there could be another jump or another you know what I mean? Because if it really just comes down to reporting, everything's been steady. It's like
Right.
it's been steady since as far as new cases has been steady. I want to say since April 2nd
Right.
at 30,000. And all of a sudden you get to hear, we're at the 17th. So that means 17 straight days of these 2,000 plus deaths.
Great.
And if all that math is probably what they could do to come up with that final death toll. Yeah, like, look at that weirdness. What the hell?
What?
Why does my it says on April 14th there were 6,100. I mean, it's up on the screen, so
What are you saying though? April
that
14th.
there were 6,100 deaths in the United States that day.
On April 14th?
Yeah.
Where is this at?
This was on the Worldometer, but I mean,
But where though? Like
when you scroll down to daily deaths on the it's like a graph.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's got to be an error, because there was no way there was a death day like that. We would have known about it.
That might be the one where they're talking about they weren't confirmed deaths. They didn't test as if you died that day. That's what they were bitching. That's what people have been bitching about. If they thought you died of it, it wasn't like a confirmed death. Like you died, obviously, but it wasn't a confirmed.
Yeah, if you pull up, I'm gonna pull this up just to show that I'm not crazy, and you'll be able to see it. I mean, I already have it. I already had it up, but I'm gonna pull it up on the big drop.
See, it's just like if you read that part about France, about how some of their nursing home deaths, they had reported before, they had reported probable causes of death that it might be COVID.
All right, I'm going to scroll down to this April 14th detailed update, because that might give us the information. Let me see. So it said this was it says that. This is what it says. 30,720 new cases. 6,185 new deaths in the U.S. Today is reported 3,778 additional deaths that have occurred since March 11. Okay. And have been classified as probable.
Like I just said.
Yeah, okay.
So they were not
but the death certificate list as cause of death COVID-19.
So that was that right there is what I was telling you that these people were
mad about,
flipping out about, because your numbers are skewed. They're like, now they're just marking off deaths as the COVID. This is all the big, and that gave them more fuel for their little lamp.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so
it's nuts, man.
Well, it's kind of I get It's just if they test those people that have already died, that's one less test for a living person that you might be able to save, or might be able to say, no, you don't need to be quarantined. You don't have it.
Right.
Without wasting it on, you know what I mean? But these people, like, if it's probable that there's a good chance that, you know what I mean? Like, you might not, you probably didn't have anything else wrong with you before, and then all of a sudden you came down with this. So that's why it's the probable. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, this person had emphysema and they died. We're gonna stick them in. They probably died of COVID. You know what I mean? It's that.
Right.
But that's the kind of people we're dealing with that think shit like that in our everyday life.
I got you.
Living around here.
So,
but we haven't had to deal with them only on the interwebs because we don't hang out with them.
Yeah, there was.
We practice staying the fuck away from people.
And another, yeah.
For sure.
It's true. Like I said, the first one today was that I saw, and it's just like so funny.
You know what? I didn't get to see anything. I
have a lot of different friends from a lot of different backgrounds and different things. You know, people that.
Well, they're going to open the beaches back up in Florida this evening. Just something to do.
Might as well.
Might as well. Bring them out. All right. Tell me about your friends.
No, that's it. I didn't really have anything.
Oh, you don't have any friends? I thought you just said you did.
No, like Facebook friends, as far as a diverse group of people of all kinds of.
How many do you have, man?
I don't know.
Oh. You got to know.
I probably lost some.
Oh.
Over the Bernie thing.
Oh. I would never defriend.
They're like,
anybody.
I don't want to hear about that stuff anymore.
Huh.
No, whatever. But there's some people that you know what I see is that there's like.
Somehow I have like over 800.
Like that's kind of like with this whole stay at home thing. It's like people. I think it's kind of crazy that people, how much time they must spend replying and researching and debating on Facebook.
Yeah, but a lot of these people don't actually they don't, like we were talking about before, they don't read the fucking article.
They just share it with the headline.
They find it or stumble upon it.
Some people do, and I'm saying that, that some people spend a lot of time, or they put out some, they basically wake up and say, I'm going to put something out there, whether it's like trolling to be a jerk or just trolling to like get some dialogue going. But of course, it all turns into, a different form of debate and accusations and malice, all those things.
Right.
So, but like my thing is that they sit there and constantly reply, and then you get somebody else jumps in and there's just like dialogue about, people's point of view. And then someone else jumps in and jabs, and it's like 3-on-1 all of a sudden. Yeah, it's kind of weird. But what's weird is that they have so much time to do that.
Well, I mean,
like in their lives,
they're locked down.
Like in a debate that they're talking about value of work.
They've got nothing but time. They're not.
Or somebody like the libertarian people talking about value of work and saying, comments about, like there was one I saw today about how all of the PPE is made in China, and that's because of these liberal feelings, and then somebody jumps in, it's like, yeah, we should all pay people 60 cents an hour, and then they come back and say, well, the value of someone's work should be based on their skill set, and if you're just doing and so it's like they're justifying that, and then at the same time you're going, wait a minute, like what is your profession that allows you to debate on Facebook all day? How are you claiming that your job in this capitalist world has any value more than anybody else's?
They're not essential, right?
No, I imagine that some of them are at home work essentially.
Oh,
Like you tell me all the engineers that are working on projects that
Yeah, they're at home.
all the project managers, I mean, these people are working from home anyway.
Right.
Lawyers,
Sucking hind tit.
you know, tax guys, accountants,
I wonder how it's going for like defense lawyers and stuff. There's not a lot of crime going on right now.
So in other words, they are essential, but their jobs are, they might put in whatever hours here and there. I don't know. I'm not trying to say that. My point is that it's funny when you see somebody justify there's two ways. One way is that, like, if they really evaluated their own career choice, then where is their essential or in the supply and demand category, where do they fit? I don't know.
Well,
like, how essential is a lawyer in a libertarian world?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I want to get in an argument with a lawyer. I know that much. I mean, I would. But the average person.
Yeah, but why? Because they're good at arguing,
right?
But
they're that's what they obvious. I mean, good ones are.
Yeah,
they're real good at it.
I think there's different forms,
and they can pull up some good points too, and some bad points.
There's some different forms, though.
Yeah,
I don't know. Just my point of, like, I don't know.
Why lawyers you've been arguing?
No. I just have a feeling about like the whole, like, I see a lot of, like, there's different. For me, it's like you have the Republican Trumps,
right?
The Trump Republicans that are just whatever he says, he's the man. He's sent from God to save us, and they worship the ground he walks on, regardless of his flaws. They even acknowledge them and say, we don't want a perfect person. We want someone to help us, whatever. Then, and then you got the people that are like, they're like, they're too critical of a system to not identify their own hypocrisy. So they have to identify with something else. And so they kind of jump to that, libertarian free trade market, supply and demand, and I feel that point of view is a bigger pipe dream than world peace or feeding the hungry, is to have a society where everything works based on our capitalist system, and individual states and individual communities determine the laws and the rules of their society. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's kind of like the libertarian thing. And to me, that's just an ultimate tribalism, to where literally we would all of a sudden be like, you want to go to Binghamton and you got to pass through 3 tolls to get there, because Oxford has their rules, Greene has their rules, and and Shenango Forks has theirs, that whole weird thing. And it's like, what makes America great is that we're united, and we decided as a society for the rules and the laws and the, you know what I'm saying? There's a middle ground.
There is.
So, like, libertarian is like anarchy for adults, and typically it's adults that already have, like, things they've done their they went to, they did the rules, or they did the job, and they're already there. You know what I mean? So they're saying, I did it, everybody else should do it, I don't rely on anybody, no one else should, etc. I don't know. And we're just seeing right now with this situation that without a government safety net of some kind, then, this libertarian lifestyle is going to come quicker than we know it, I guess, through which is anarchy. Which is anarchy, and it's determined by the individual societies to make the rules, creating tribalism.
Old tribalism.
And I guess that's is that what they mean by "Make America Great Again"? Back when,
I don't know, America.
Native Americans. See, the whole
Tell
one
us.
thing I found interesting is the whole another cool thing about New York, the state of New York, is that the whole setup of the Native American tribes is like the basis of what created the United States. Like to have individual tribes that were able to gather together, and that was like the whole way that the New York Native Americans had like a unity.
Yeah, but then see their problem was like a lot of those they might have around here, but a lot of them ones like as you got further out into Ohio and all that, they didn't.
Well, that's what
You know
I'm
what I
trying
mean?
to
They
say is
didn't
that
get along. If they would have all
like
band
the basis
together,
of
if they would have band together, they would have. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not saying they would have won, but it would have been a longer fight for them, and they would have had a hell of a better chance than getting picked apart individual. You know what I mean? Tribes. They came in and basically one by one or two by two picked them off like that instead of them having one huge like army type deal.
right.
If all the Native Americans would have band together. But that's another whole fucking story too.
Yeah, so you understand what I'm saying? Like, just I mean, I get on a tangent or whatever.
No,
but,
it's cool.
But like the whole idea of what I'm saying, tribalism, and what you're saying is that's how it was spread out, and that's why they weren't they weren't able to hold their land,
Right.
because they didn't stick together.
Exactly.
And so that's like, so in the end, above all, whether it's our our government structure or the way we monetize or all this stuff, how big our military is, what makes America great is unity.
UNITY.
That's right.
That's a unity.
And without that, yeah, like either way, like if the vote goes through and it says that this is the new law, whatever it is, then we all have to agree that that's the new law. Okay, like it happened.
Right.
But if you don't want that to be the law, then you gotta, I don't know, you gotta be involved. You gotta like keep up on it all, and it's all rather exhausting, especially if you take it to like
But you got to remember, you're living in a world where these people still think that this stimulus money and stuff like that we're getting is because of Trump and stuff, and they bypass that the whole fucking Senate and Congress got together, which is both of their sides, because people want a fucking pick a side. They bypass all that, and they think that's the thinking of most of these people, that they think that this guy is the be all say all, which in all actuality it's not. Like, he signed the end deal, but he didn't have anything to do with. He couldn't write it up. He's not.
It's not his job.
It's not his job. But I don't even think he could do it. I don't give a fuck. Whatever. I don't think he could do it. Come on now. Like, these people are still like, you still go through and read this shit, or you see it, like, it's not. He just happens to be the guy in there that fucked everything up in the first place, where they had to shut everything down for this long. I mean, it's just like, come on, man. Like, it's not his fucking money that he's given us. It's money that's came out of, you know what I mean, that we pay every fucking year. I just saw another.
It's crazy.
I just see it. I don't like.
Well, it's that whole drain the swamp, and then you really look at, okay, after 3 years, you think that there's a campaign promise. What has he drained?
He ain't done nothing. He hasn't built his fucking wall either. Where the fuck's his wall? 160 acres isn't shit. You say you built a fucking wall of 160 acres. That's not shit. The other part
is how they they showed how you could get through it with a $100 saw.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then,
Come on.
And then
now.
he also
Dude, they just found another guy they just found another tunnel too. Like, come on, like how?
And then he said, what else did that was a funny interview too, because he had like the guy sitting there that was, part of building it, the construction crew, the official leader and the manager or whatever. And he's talking about the wall. I don't know if you ever saw that clip, but it's funny as hell.
I don't know if I did.
Because he's talking about it, and then he like throws in there. He goes, "Yeah, and I think they're gonna have some high tech security cameras on there too." Like throwing in extra, like nothing can get through this. And you could see the guys being like, like even in their own head, like if you're the construction guy building it, that you can like, whether it's cement, you can fucking hit it with a hammer, or whether it's steel, you can obviously cut through it with the saws and portable things that you can buy at hardware stores. Nobody believes that it's like indestructible steel, except for somebody that has never, like, doesn't know anything about steel, right?
Right. Fucking. I mean, wouldn't it have been easier just to build like a canal? Like a fucking
moat with some alligators in
right,
it.
Like
he talked about that though.
Right?
Remember that
yeah,
was one of his
I know, but wouldn't it have been easier and cheaper? All you would have had to pay for is the diesel or whatever and
I know,
the man hours to dig.
That is completely unhumanitarian. You can't.
What can't you do?
You can't have a moat with alligators.
Well, then don't put alligators in. We'll throw salt water in there and put fucking sharks in there. Mean ones. And you fucking
either way,
go for it.
Terrible idea, but
no, it's not.
Okay.
It's better than a wall, and it's cheaper than a wall.
Yeah, but what is your intentions?
My intentions
is to keep people from coming over.
Not mine. I don't want any of it.
All right,
but I'm saying, like,
don't encourage a fucking moat with alligators and sharks and shit.
I'm just saying it's
saltwater. Both.
It's $1 trillion cheaper than trying to build a fucking wall through there.
I say, yeah,
is all I'm saying. This fucking guy.
Well, no, he did. That was the whole point. Is that
we would have had it done already.
At some point, they were brainstorming and they were like, "These are the choices. You can fill it with alligators, and it would only cost this much." Come on, man. But that's where it's like,
it's not inhumane if you're not feeding people to it. Like, come on now.
They're
like,
just going up to the edge, and they're like, gotta get across. And
you don't have to.
Balancing on a log, and then whoop, sharks jump up and scoop them up. That'd be crazy.
What's crazy is trying to build a fucking wall. This fucking guy.
How would that go? How would the
gators?
Yeah.
Big game hunting. Be like big game hunting.
It's a bunch of malarkey, man.
Put a preserve down there.
It's a malarkey. But right now, you want to know a good way? COVID. Nobody wants to cross the border right now. You think there's still you think there's people? Of course there's always something going on, but
don't worry, he upped it. He's worried about blow and all that shit. He upped it about
that's always the that's going right back to the old killing people with drugs.
Right.
But the reality is what's killing more people than the drugs is the illegalness of the drugs, which causes them to go down desperate roads and
yeah.
In my opinion. In my humble opinion. All right, song time.
Uh-oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sonic Gardens Radio is going to play you a Sonic Gardens video from our catalog. Today is... What is today? Today is April 17th, 2020. Day 33 of our Central New York quarantine.
That's over a month.
Self-quarantine. That's definitely over a month. Even a long month with 31 days.
Even Trump would know that.
2 more than that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. All right, we're going to give you guys, let's see. Shit. Gotta go back here. I don't have this stuff all plugged, I just go into the old thingy and play something that's cool. Dude, we're going to take this one way back.
Oh, boy.
taking it way, way back. Let's see.
What's up with them bailing out Ruth Chris Steakhouse? Was that serious? Is that really true?
I don't know what that is.
I keep seeing that they got a bunch of money. Give them a bunch of money. Some cash. Maybe not cash.
Here's an old school Easy Wind. I don't know how this one's going to sound. I haven't heard this in a long time.
Oh, boy.
But I'm going to give it to you.
Don't know how that's going to sound, he says.
This is with my great friend Dan Brower. This is from September 28th, 2016. So this is the closest thing you're going to get to a mutiny session.
Ooh.
And this was back in the day. Oh shit, I got a double goddamn thing going on again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Sonic Gardens Radio, mAng and Neads Show. I'm gonna give you guys a little taste of something. This is almost 4 years. That is so nuts, man. Little video too. One of the first ones I ever made. Sonic Gardens Radio, mAng and Neads Show.
drinking my wine. So if my man is the sun and my father is the center of the earth, in the middle of the universe, why is the first coming 6 times the worst? Don't freestyle much, body like such. All the scenes controlled by the means. What does it mean? All the shit I've seen. Human beings screaming for the job. Another sound of a local environment. Now I feel good. Sound a little something, but then the game of the ain't say nothing. You know what is game? Who got game? Where's the game? And I behind the game, behind the game. And I got game, and you got game. She got game, they got game, and we got game. And I feel good. Sound a little something, but ain't saying nothing. my surfing ski. Cause I'm a stone jack caller and my heart is true. And I'll give everything that I've got to you, yes I will. Doctor said better stop on that jack. If I live 5 years, I'm gonna bust my back. Yes I will. Will I live 5 years, taking my time, calling that jack, drinking my wine. You today.
All right, you're listening to Sonic Gardens Radio. It's mAng and Neads Show, and we're back here. That was an Easy Win medley.
Oh,
from,
yeah.
2016. That was super early days of the Sonic Gardens recording. That was one of the very first recordings coming out of there.
Huh.
You know, we were still like trying to figure it all out. This was like with my 20-year-old mixing board
Ooh.
recorder, that Roland that I had from I think I got it in 2000.
Really?
Yeah,
Got me paused.
got you paused. That was a good thing. That was just a 10-minute, 12-minute jam actually.
Huh.
Welcome back. That's how we do it here.
Oh,
So
yeah?
whether or not you're here for the banter, whether or not you're here for the music, whether you're not just specifically here to see the charming Joshua Needham.
Hey, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, you can't hear you.
I can't.
Sorry.
Okay, now I can.
You know what? It looks like I muted the wrong thing, and you were unmuted through the whole song.
Oh, really?
So if you were like,
Yeah, I didn't say nothing.
I didn't hear you. Yeah, you were quiet.
I am quiet.
That's
You
your.
should never
I'm
mute
telling
me.
you, I give you your meditation, man. It gives you your chance to sink back.
Yeah, I was out here reading stupid shit.
Were you? Anything good? Anything you want to share with the people?
Nah, just stupid shit. People are. Nope. Nothing.
So, So
Just
that was
brain trust.
Dan Brower. Dan Brower is part of the
yeah, yes.
Leche de Tigre. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is. Leche.
Yeah, Leche.
Leche.
Whatever.
I don't know how
However
to
you
say it.
pronounce
Man,
it.
I'm horrible pronunciations. Somebody can fix that for me out there. Anyway, that was cool, man. He'd come back. You know, we used to be in a band called Mutiny, and basically everybody in Mutiny was there, except for my dad was not playing the drums. We had Nick Andrews on the drums, but Mark O'Connor,
The Great.
Chris, myself, and Dan. And what's funny is that we're actually everybody's kind of different. Like Chris used to play the bass in the Mutiny band, and I used to play the guitar. So this was just a slight different arrangement, but you know, maybe I'll go back and try and remaster those recordings.
Oh yeah.
But it wasn't too bad, you know, for a take one session down at Sonic Gardens 4 years ago.
Take one.
Take one. Yeah. So back in, I don't know, man. So nothing good. You're just reading stupid shit, people's arguments about how get back out there, let's make this happen. We're Americans. Let's you know, only the strong survive and all that stuff.
Same people probably date their cousins though. So
I don't see how you know, doing that without, we don't know anything, man. They don't know anything about this.
Well, they just want you to get back there. That's the thing. They want you to get her done. Get back to it.
Which is just like a campaign.
Now, what I see is that everyone.
Give the people what they
Nah,
want.
they're all fucking mad. Everyone upstate is mad at Cuomo. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people. Cuomo.
What are they mad at him about now?
Because he paused it until the 15th of May or whatever.
Oh, and they think that it's time. I just don't understand what indications they have, being that there was 21,000 cases, 21,474
They think that we should not
cases today.
They think that we should be let up before the city. You know what I mean? Like, they don't think that it's the whole thing of being with.
Oh, they think that the upstate.
They think that we're fine up here. People are writing fucking letters to them and stuff, like typed up letters. Not writing them, sorry. Typed up letters and shit. Yeah. There's some special shit going on.
Another one was that somebody pulled up the they pulled up like a comparison map of the coronavirus in the U.S. compared to the 5G in the U.S.
Oh boy.
Right? Yeah, and then it was kind of awesome because somebody else said if you use this same theory, then there's so many other things that contribute. So then they like pulled up all kinds of maps that show it. Basically, the reason why is because it's where the population density is, and that's why the map looks the way it does.
Right.
So when that's the same places that get telephone service, that's the same places that have, like I said, there's a million things you could say about it,
Right.
that mean the same thing, or like that mean. So the theory that 5G is what's causing it is just debunked again.
Debunked.
Not that the microwaves of this stuff cannot be dangerous. I'm not claiming that. I'm just saying the link to coronavirus is reaching high.
Reaching high. High reaching.
Yeah, man.
It's a high reacher.
So tell me,
What do you want to know?
I don't know. Tell me about it.
Well, we got a lot going on, I guess, from what I see. Is there any nudes? You got any news for us?
Any nudes? No nudes today. Sorry. We do have a call-in number, 607-373-HEAT. If anybody wants to give us a call, phone lines are working properly, believe it or not. So today is a perfect day
Just
to call
for a minute.
in. We double-checked it. That's
Got
what
it
kind of
again.
ran us a little late. A lot of trouble with this telephone line. I've been.
Oh yeah.
I've been.
Venom.
I've been doing
Not
it.
Venom, but Venom.
No, I've been working on all this connection stuff, and then all of a sudden
Oh,
I'm fucking
yeah.
stumped for like a week on the phone
Uncle
line.
Stumpy.
And I'm just saying, man, phone lines are open. Call in. Let us know what's happening. We got comments there.
Huh.
What's going on? We got a comment from Laura.
Who's that?
My sister Laura
Oh,
says, let's build bridges instead of walls. That's what my sister wants to build bridges.
I burn
I
fucking
agree.
bridges.
I agree with you 100%, Laura.
I burn them.
Let's fix bridges. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like you could just break it right down to like, let's repair the bridges that we have and not build walls. How about that?
But I think people are missing the point. We were talking about Trump getting what he said he was going to get done. And
oh, true. We're not trying.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
here.
we're not trying to say. Yeah, Josh is
And
not in favor.
And my
of
point was that if you were gonna do what you said, and it would be way cheaper to build
a moat,
than it would be to build a fucking wall.
Yeah,
it's just common sense.
Economics 101.
Yeah, you don't have to. That's all I'm saying is it would cost less. You would fulfill what you told your people that voted you in. You would have your little fucking border that somebody could jump over. So, or tightrope across. That's all I'm saying. I don't want no fucking wall. I think we should be all one. Canada, Mexico, we're all on the ground. What?
Okay, there's a good topic. We should be all one.
We
so
should
again,
be.
we were just talking about how the United States
we
and
should,
how
we should
how
all,
we are united, right?
Yeah, we should unite with Mexico and Canada and make it more states, and there we go, or whatever they want to do, whoever.
Yeah,
go
and you
for
see,
it,
so
right? And then we mingle.
However, this is something where this is kind of the anti. Like they claim, like part of the right and part of this socialism is obviously the end result would be a united world,
right?
And it would be fully, socialist. And in a way, it already is. Like the U.S. gives money to all kinds of countries for what reason? Is to prevent an outrage. You know what I'm saying? Like to prevent sometimes from things going too far. Like they don't it's not in our interest to have total collapse of all these countries or total disease outbreak or obviously the world is like a working web that needs everything everything going on except for some of the dirty gang lords and drug lords of like that recruit child.
Right.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like everything has and it should be
human trafficking.
It's like it's like this idea of like I'm saying, like to have the ideal of one day having world peace has become, oh my God, you're a globalist that wants a new world order and the world to be run by Bill Gates and whoever.
Nah, he's old. No one wants him to run anything.
My point is, you know what my point is that they just think that there's a bigger thing, and then
everyone's always going to have a problem.
So like
with
they
everything.
talk about elites, but then they talk about elites and elitists, but then they defend billionaires and millionaires. Like,
well, they don't want a smart billionaire or millionaire to get in there. They want they want like one that we have to get in there and cause an uproar.
Now, tell me this.
Okay.
How, like, also, like, you look at life and, like, destiny and all these weird things.
I don't know if... All right.
I know.
Going.
You don't necessarily get onto that, but just follow me for a moment as if you did.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, and I do remember the story that I wanted to bring up, and I'm going to take a minute to research it because this one was this was a hot topic. Anyway,
it was a hell of a story.
All right. And then I totally lost train of what I was thinking about just then.
Oh.
What a failure!
Unbelievable.
What were we just talking about?
Oh, you were gonna tell me about something. I was waiting for the whole thing too.
I had a good one.
Yeah, you did.
I was leading something in. But what we were talking about, New World Order.
Yeah, and you were gonna let me.
Defending the millionaires.
Yeah,
and the billionaires.
You were gonna let me. Say something.
Okay, so this is why this is gonna lead into the story.
All right.
So Trump, like, why is it that we've always seen this guy like on magazines and like TV, cameos? It's like, in all honesty, I can't think of another like billionaire celebrity like prior to Donald Trump, and this goes all the way back to the 80s. Now, in the same sense, like so here's a slight another aspect is it's like billionaires are like, they learned over time that they had to kind of hide out and not be like out in the open. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Obviously you got like Bill Gates, but that was like even after and then Jeff Bezos. Now there's like so many. Mark Cuban. These guys that like we know their names, but who's the original? Can you think of anybody like other than like Rockefeller or JP Morgan or Carnegie? But were they like billionaires of the time they were?
And
so,
yes, of their time, yes.
So I guess like my
and
point
they were
is
out
that,
there though. They were definitely out there, and they wanted to be. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
and I
then,
feel like they kind of like went into hiding and said it was easier to not be like noticed, and then the world of like Facebook and
but what about
Twitter
like
and all
Buffett and
these
those
things
guys?
came.
Warren Buffett's always been like he might not be like he's
More of like a
always got
political,
something to say though. Is you know what I mean?
right? But again, I don't remember Warren Buffett when I was, 14 years old or something on like MTV. Like,
we don't.
or them
Well,
talking
no,
about him.
definitely not on MTV.
And maybe I'm, so maybe I'm a bit off, but
But-
I just feel like there's a reason why I do remember him from
Well,
as young as I can
Donald
be.
Trump's not a billionaire. He might
Okay.
be, but he's
So-
a fake one.
So
you know
like
what I mean?
think about that. Like there was like a movie, a vampire movie,
Oh,
where
boy.
like the vampire was the rock and roll, like, and they would do their thing and like sing about it, and they had all these fans. I can't remember what it was. It was like something of the damned or something
I didn't
like
catch that one.
But anyway, the concept of it was that the dude was a vampire and he was gonna come out and tell the world that vampires like existed, you know? And then all the other vampires wanted to like kill him because of that.
Huh?
You know what I'm saying?
Not really.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is that he's like the guy that exposed himself, and it was almost like with the path being the destiny to build up a character of whatever.
He wants attention.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Over time to position himself. Like if anybody has been preparing for this presidency thing his whole life, at least getting the win, like winning that, like a beauty pageant.
Right.
Not necessarily like fulfilling the duty of the pageant winner, but getting to the victory, you know?
Right.
Being the like what is,
Being the
you know,
cocksucker.
like what's more than being a billionaire is being a president, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, so I did get a little off of what I was talking about. What I'm
You
going to
did?
do is I'm going to try and find this story, and it was this really creepy story about a book written over like hundreds of years ago. And it identifies not only Trump, like it's fictional story, but it identifies a man in, becoming a leader, and it was like his name's Trump, and the other thing that was weird is that he had a son named Barron. And this was like hundreds of years ago. So like the coincidence of it all, I don't know. But it was a creepy story. I don't know if anybody else has heard it.
No, I have
If you can give us a little,
I definitely haven't heard it.
give us a little rundown on what you're thinking about, and let me just do a little research real quick.
What I'm thinking about?
Yeah, man, talk to me.
Fucking lost it.
Talk to me.
You
Tell the people how you feeling. I took it in a weird turn.
I don't.
Sorry.
Yeah, you fucked me all up. I think whatever I was thinking, I fucking am not thinking anymore, or whatever I thought I was thinking, I'm not thinking anymore either. I don't know. I don't know anything about the vampires either, but there's so they're saying that.
And you gotta love the internet that I can even like think about looking this up and not have it just come from my.
Well, oh yeah, I was saying, they're saying if they send kids back to school, the death rate would be probably 2 to 3%. I think I read that right. Yeah, I definitely read that right. And your boy, Dr. Oz,
Yeah.
he said something stupid. Did you see that? He said something about, that we would have to deal with, or something about like almost like population or.
Oh yeah, dude. Check this out.
All right, what?
I'm just gonna tell you.
What do you got?
There's the Barron. Okay, and I didn't mean to take that away. Okay, but
Yeah, you
the
did.
Barron Trump
Talking about
novels.
dead kids and you coming back with Donald. But go ahead.
Yeah, because I actually wasn't listening to what you're saying. If you want to finish that thought,
No,
you
go
can.
ahead.
I can't believe how quickly I mean, I guess I can because it's
Come
the
on,
world we're
it's
in.
fucking the internet.
But I know. But I was like, how do you even look that up?
it's probably a
'Cause it just
hot
came up with,
topic, is
like,
why.
All right, so Barron. Okay, so there were the Barron Trump novels. Are two children's novels written in 1889 and 1893 by the American author and lawyer Ingersoll Lockwood. They remained obscure until 2017 when they received media attention for perceived similarities between their protagonist and a U.S. President, Donald Trump. Published the first novel, Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and His Wonderful Dog, Bulger, in 1889, and its sequel, Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, in 1893. The novels recount the adventures of the German boy Wilhelm Henrik Sebastian von Trump, who goes by Baron Trump, and he discovers weird underground civilizations, offends the natives, flees from the entanglements with local women, and repeats the pattern until arriving back home at Castle Trump. The novels were part of a trend in American children's literature that responded to the demand for fantastic adventure stories triggered by Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. They were, however, indifferently received and did not enter the canon of children's literature. An 1891 reviewer wrote about one of Lockwood's novels. The author labels through 300 pages of fantastic and grotesque narrative, now and then striking a spark of wit, but the sparks emit little light and no warmth, as one has to fumble for the story. Yeah, so look at that.
Huh.
There's more to it.
Yeah, but Trump's one of them people.
Okay,
probably,
so Baron Trump's adventure, and then okay, let me read on here. Okay.
He probably read the fucking books and
in July
named
2000,
his kid Baron.
okay, so in July 2017, the books were rediscovered by the internet forum users and then media who pointed out similarities between the protagonists. Trump, whose son Baron Trump. Jamie Fuller wrote in Politico that Baron Trump is precious, restless, and prone to get in trouble. Often mentions his massive brain and has a personalized insult for the most people he meets. Chris Ryota noted in Newsweek that Baron Trump's adventures begin in Russia. Ryota also mentioned another book of Ingersoll's, 1900, or The Last President, in which New York City is riven by protests following the shock victory of a populist candidate in the 1896 presidential election who brings on the downfall of the American Republic. Ooh.
That's too
What?
much for me.
It's
I don't know. It's
what's too much?
It's just too. It's too.
It's too like quirky.
Far fetched. Yeah.
What do you mean far fetched? As far as I mean, it's not somebody making up. This is like what they're saying about these books. It's just interesting that this is in the late 1800s.
Right.
And
I get it.
You know?
You know me. I doubt everything. I mean, I believe the books, but
so here's like some guy that was like inspired to be or was already on that, genre of like Alice in Wonderland type books.
Right. And he just so happened to name them.
He just so happened to have a lot of coincidences with our current guy. And it's like, so, I mean, I understand you are, it's funny because I love talking about this kind of stuff. Or some not all.
Tell me.
It's like it's a wall with you because it's one of those like fantasy philosophy. It's like the same thing where you're not like a movie buff, so I get it. Like you don't drag that in. But me, I just find it interesting. Obviously, I heard this a while ago, and then just found it crazy coincidental. It's not like I turned my life into like. This is what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, obviously, if you had to look it up.
But I do like the idea of just thinking about things like destiny. I really do feel that sometimes we don't even make our own choices.
We don't have a purpose.
And
you're telling me we're here to do this, to do what, like, you know what I mean? Like what they're doing with the world right now? That's the fucking purpose of a human being.
No.
Is to build it up and then worry about wealth. You're telling me that's the fucking purpose? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
No, like
we
it-
don't
I
even
guess-
know our purpose. Like,
Well,
no,
we
these
talked about-
people obviously don't know what the fucking. You know, I'm not saying I do. I'm not saying that all, but deep down, you really think that building up the wealth and all that shit, and then sacrificing human beings and shit like that, that you're worried about wealth is the purpose of a fucking human? So that's so.
Well,
So
I
that's
mean,
where I go with that. Like, no, I'm not saying you either. I'm just saying, like,
obviously,
a human being, like,
I don't.
our purpose
yeah.
is not. I don't think it is to work your fucking ass off to get all this wealth, and then on top of that, if you're a leader of a country or you're leader of the people or your tribe or whatever you're the leader of, it is not to sacrifice the people. But that shit goes back tons of years of people sacrificing people back to when these people believed in gods and not just a god and shit like that. When they sacrificed people thinking that that would help it rain or shit like that. Like, even more made crazy shit. Like, I just don't yeah, don't get me going. But
No,
yeah.
And then
Yep.
so my where I'm coming with it though is that I take it to like I guess little stories like this, they're more like philosophy that dive into like you know, the Mandela effect, that whole thing that has been out there. You know, that's curious to me too. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it my life,
Right.
but I do find it, you know, interesting things that I remembered you know, being so factual in my life, or at least in my brain.
Right.
And I understand memories can get tricky, but there's certain things that, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting when you get into that. You know, the whole Berenstain,
The Barnstein Bears or
Berenstain, and then it's like Berenstain. It was always Berenstain, and that just is so weird to me because
I mean, I guess it depends on what
it was
where
cursive.
you're
so
from
when
and
you're
what
little,
language you what how you pronounce things though, right? Or no? It does though, right?
well, Berenstain is never, you know, like Berenstain though, and that's what I'm saying. Is that's the weird part about it, is that it felt like that was always clearly that, but you look at it now and you see.
I mean,
that
you're
it's
a
like,
kid when you read it, so you're not gonna. You know what I mean?
it's cursive. It is
You know,
written
but
in
I'm
cursive
saying you're
writing.
a young kid, like, unless your adult parent reads it to you and tells
But
you.
for so many people to to like equally remember that, and I guess it's tough to say because of where we come from. So I'd love to hear from anybody that grew up outside of
Norwich.
Norwich or Shenango County to
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
tell us about the Berenstain. But it wouldn't be all over the internet as one of those things, or even like an
It
original
depends,
trigger.
like all that. People make shit bigger than it is.
Right.
Is what it comes down to.
And you know
But
that,
that's my theory, or that's not my theory. That's I always
yeah. And there
fucking
was
first,
a,
second, third, and 18th guess everything.
like the World War I and what triggered the us to go in another thing on top of the sinking of the Lusitania and the Archduke assassination.
Getting shot in the fucking head.
But then there was that story of the Black Tom's Bay or something in New York City, where two German guys
Where they shot. They shot.
They
right?
shot up like the ammo, or they blew up the whole, like a whole craft of ammunition that was being supplied to the war.
Right.
And then, but they said the bomb that it blew out windows on like the whole island of Manhattan and caused, like, you could feel the earthquake all the way down to Philadelphia.
I bet.
And you're going, but that was actually
because back then, like,
that wasn't, but that was actually
dynamite was a big thing back then too. Though they probably hit a fucking
right.
It was probably had a ton of dynamite in it too.
But what I'm getting at is that maybe because there wasn't the deaths, but we were led to believe that the first time American soil was ever attacked was
but I think
D-Day in Pearl Harbor. So and obviously that was Hawaii. So
Right.
it's like, but then all of a sudden you hear about this story and you're just like, what? I never heard that story. And, you know, not that I like went and took crazy long history classes. So yeah, anybody that can just say, look, man, I went to school 20 years ago and I totally learned that. Whatever. But me personally, I never heard of that Black Tom Thumbs
Black
or
Tom Thumbs.
something like that. Tom Thumb. I think I messed that up.
Yeah, yeah.
Black Tom Bay or something. Yeah, man.
Alrighty.
Yeah, what do you think? You getting yawned? You
Yeah.
getting yawned up?
Getting
huh?
hungry.
You can call it.
Yeah, getting starving. Oh, you
I did pull up the actual book here.
Hey, do I have
dude, this?
do I have some volume? Let's listen to Dr. Oz for a second. Let's listen to this.
Okay, sure. Hold on a second.
Do I got some volume?
Play it.
Well, first, we need our mojo back. Let's start with things that are really critical to the nation where we think we
Oh, I
might be able
heard
to open
this.
without getting into a lot of
Oh,
trouble.
I can't hear it.
I tell you,
you
schools
did hear
are
it?
a very appetizing opportunity. I just saw a nice piece in the Lancet arguing that the opening of schools may only cost us 2 to 3% in
Yes,
terms of total
fucker.
mortality. And, you know, that's any life is a life lost. But to get every child back into a school where they're safely being educated, being fed, and making the most out of their lives with a theoretical risk in the backside, it might be a trade-off some folks would consider. We need to get industry back, supply lines. I mean, things that we can do without putting the nation at risk.
How is that safe if
Dr.
somebody
Oz,
might
help.
die? Did you hear him contradict himself all in the same sentence?
Yeah, that guy is a total bullshitter, man. I don't have any. Wait a minute. Was I
What?
out in your microphone all this time, or in your earpiece?
What time?
Huh.
I heard you the whole fucking time.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
I was
obviously,
wondering
I've
why
been talking back to you.
This was muted, and I was wondering why. But I guess
I don't know,
whatever.
but I heard you talking about. Yeah, we were talking.
I know, obviously.
Oh, what the fuck?
I'm pretty sure I'm in there. Okay.
All right.
So yeah, man, Dr. Oz is no like I think that the fact that he's on Fox News right now just
Spewing his shit.
shows that that's it, man. He's like they are just trying to please that same base, and it's the ones that Dr. Oz was a
They had Dr.
was a
Phil
con
on there
artist
saying
before.
some stupid shit too.
Yeah.
But we won't play to him. We won't even give him fucking YouTube airtime.
I can't I don't think he was saying his dumbest shit that like, he's got compassion. It's
Phil?
different.
Yeah, he was saying something
But I'm
about
not-
Fauci or like, yeah, they're all what they all just fucking. It comes back. They all want to pit somebody against somebody else, and it's just like they all have to point a finger and put a jab onto somebody. If they can't go after like Pelosi or any of them, then they go after, say, Dr. Fauci and he's just trying to help people, it seems, but then they all want to go back to he's getting money for this, or he's doing this, or he's got this interest in. I mean, no matter how you look at it, over 30,000 people have died, so maybe his interest is not fucking is people not dying. But I don't know. Whatever. We'll leave it at that. So
dude, okay, so okay, before we leave though, since I did find this Barron Trump thing, right?
Yeah.
This books, the books of I just want to kind of flip through some of the the pictures in there cuz I just am curious. This is first reaction, so I haven't really seen any of them. I'm just trying to see if I can pick any out of this thing. All right. So, fading over. Here we go. Little Baron Trump, the travels and adventures of. And over here we have a what appears to be oops, sorry. Looks like a bunch of servants, I don't know, climbing up to do stuff. I'll flip through the book here real quick. Table of contents. We got a little picture of some bells. I don't know, man. Let's flip through. Like I said, here's a one interesting portrait. A donkey. 300 pages here. A picture of a dog. Whoa, here's a creepy picture. You gotta put this one on a shirt, Josh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't even know what. I gotta read the caption on that.
Huh.
3 portraits showing the wonderful growth of my brain.
Jesus.
Oh, dude, this is so creepy. This picture right here is yuck. Seriously, dude. And it's like, so it's that Barron Trump kid, John, and he's got this big creepy looking head. Let's see what these guys say here. There we go. The 3 weary judges as they appeared at the close of my suit against my tutors.
Tutors. Welcome to Tutors.
Our family coachman becomes nothing but skin and bone. The elder baron and the baroness grew very thin. Man. Like I said, it's just like, what a weird, yeah, there's a picture of him too. There's the picture. Oh, this is good. This is the one you got to make a shirt. It'd be a good inside one. Yeah, 300-page book here, and it's a little creepy thing about Barron Trump, written in the late 1800s.
All
here,
right.
mAng and Neads Show.
mAng and Neads Show.
Back to Josh at the desk. You got any last words you want to talk to us about?
No, I don't got anything else.
We got no calls, no call from Warner today.
Yeah, he's probably resting from his long win yesterday.
Getting ready for
He was long-winded yesterday. His wife probably made him take the day off. He had an awful lot to say yesterday.
He's been making notes. Making notes.
He
of,
didn't.
comments.
He didn't have his listening ears on either.
We couldn't. He couldn't hear. That's probably why.
Oh,
We were probably having a hard time.
he was having a hard time living the good life.
Living the good life.
All right.
Peace
Till
then.
tomorrow. Thanks for having us.
One more closeout tune.
What? Shit.
I'm still trying to find it, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna go eat. I'm starving. I'm gonna make myself something to eat.
Hope everybody's eating out there.
Yeah, me too.
Keeping
Hope you're not eating
keeping
too
busy.
much.
I'm gonna give you guys oh man.
What are you gonna give them? Power?
I'm gonna give them Wishing Well.
Oh yeah, the old wishing well.
Yo, this is Ben Wayne
The great.
doing Wishing Well with Chris, myself, and Horst Reinheimer on the drums.
Oh right.
And we hope everybody enjoys this Sonic Gardens classic.
Thanks for having us.
Sonic Gardens Radio.
I've seen some bad times, and I've seen some clear skies. I've said the simple truth. It's the best thing ever said. Just like the gypsy who was born to ride away. Just like the Holy Ghost, no man prays and another man sings. Just like a good song, yes, he's never gonna hear again. Falls on a whistle well, I'm down on my luck. And just gets to the face. We don't work the head, sometimes you waste home. Sometimes you live the blues. Sometimes you feel okay. Maybe times you get screwed. It seems like heaven. Not too good. Well, you might as well give it like nothing to lose. I said you might as well give it nothing to lose. I said you might as well give it nothing to lose. Yeah, nothing to lose.